Good evening and welcome back. As I promised, I have with me Mr. Thomas Matthew, the principal of our own English High School, Sharjah, the boys branch. And I introduced him to you in my own way at the beginning of the show, a very able administrator, a man of action and go-getter. Sir, we are privileged and honored to have you in the show. We understand how hectic things have been in the last few days, and we thank you for joining us in the studio this evening.
It's my pleasure, Sangeet, to be with you. I look forward to meeting you more often.
Oh, okay, that's quite heartening, sir, and the feeling is mutual. Can you, for the benefit of our viewers, could you introduce yourself a little more in detail, sir?
I'm Thomas Matthew. I've been in this teaching line for the past 30 years. I joined the teaching profession more out of choice than by chance. I remember after my education moving to Delhi, I had two offers, either to join the hotel industry or to take up a teaching career. And I decided to join the teaching career because I love children, I love to interact with them. It's been a long journey. I've been in GEMS for the past 18 years. 2009, CBSE recognized me with the Teacher Award. Earlier in 2003, the Gwalior Vikas Samiti also recognized me for my work in the field of education. It's been a pleasure being here in UAE, interacting with children, molding their lives, and that's me.
We are really honored, sir, to have someone who has won the prestigious award. 30 years in teaching, 18 years in Dubai with GEMS, and we're talking about probably thousands of students who would have passed under your guidance. I think there's a caller quite early in the show, someone who wants to speak to you, sir. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Can we know your name, please?
Hello, I can hear you properly.
Just give a second, ma'am. They'll just get it right in a couple of seconds. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes, ma'am, welcome to the show. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Would you have a question for us, ma'am?
Actually, I have a doubt. Actually, it has to be cleared by sir only.
Okay.
Thomas Matthew, sir. Can I talk to him?
Sure, he's listening to you.
I'm listening.
Yeah. Ma'am, you can address your question. Sir is hearing you.
I'm listening.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, I'm fine. Sir, I'm happy to see you in the TV.
Yes, go on.
Sir, actually, I have a doubt related to your school system only.
Okay.
It's like, I think you have only one recess in the school, right?
One recess, that's right.
Actually, I think, sir, it's not good, the time for, if you think about the health of the child, giving only 20 minutes into 6 hours is not at all hefty. That's what I feel. The child is spending 6 hours at school and more than 1 hour in the bus also. I think you need to give some more time for him to have his food and go to washroom and all.
Okay.
If possible, you can make it 2 recesses so that child will get some more time.
Let me take one at a time. Going to the washroom, we don't restrict a child to go to the washroom. Anytime he wants to go, he is permitted to go, provided he takes an out pass from the teacher. As far as giving a second recess, I'll definitely consider, but the problem here in UAE is we are short of time. Unlike India, here we have additional subjects to cover. We have more holidays, and hence it becomes very difficult to shorten the study time. So, but however, you have made a suggestion, I shall look into it.
Sir, actually, the child will find it difficult to even, the child is resistant to drink his water because he feels like to go to washroom, and he is sitting in a, central AC room and all. He needs to go to the washroom, and when he feels to urinate, he cannot go because the teachers, the teachers are strict because of disciplinary issues. They will not let the child to go to the washroom, and the recess time is too short.
Okay.
It's not so healthy. The child may get urinary infection sometimes. Sometimes he may not drink water. The child is spending 12 years in the school, and that too 5 days in a week, and these 5 days also 6 hours in the school without
Ma'am,
drinking proper
can I just
water, without going to...
Can I just give you one example? When we were children, we had a similar routine. And today what happens is we overprotect our children. We need to make them tough. But I'm not saying that this is the right system, but once a child comes to the school, most of the buses arrive by about 7:10. They're free to have some tiffin on their own. There is again a time for tiffin later on, and then finally when the school gets over, I've seen a lot of children having again another tiffin just before they enter the bus. However, as I mentioned earlier, I shall definitely look into this aspect, which you have raised, and we'll see whether we can give you some time in between for another break, especially for the primary children.
Thank you, ma'am. I think that was a very valid suggestion. As the head of an institution, I'm sure he'll be weighing the pros and cons, the different implications of giving a break, how it would affect the time spent on actual teaching, and I'm sure they'll take a decision which will benefit all the stakeholders, the school and the students and parents like ours as well. Thanks a lot for your call, and hope you've answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let me get into a tricky question, sir. Now, everyone is talking about academics, and I do that a lot as well, getting an A+ and being a class topper. At the same time, sir, let's say you have a student who is genuinely interested in building a career in sports. And let's say he's reasonably good at sports. And he wants to spend most of his time practicing on the field, which could be affecting his the time that he has to spend on studying. So he comes to you for advice, or his parents come to you for advice. What would you advise them?
Sangeet, it will all depend upon what his age.
Okay.
Now, if he is already into senior school, then there's very little scope for him to reach some sort of speciality in that area.
Okay.
But however, I'll give you an example. I had a student a couple of years ago. He was very good in cricket. I suggested to the parent that he should relocate to India, where a lot of coaching facilities is available in Mumbai and Chennai, and he followed my advice, and he's gone back to India. I think he's in Mumbai, and I hope to see him as a cricketer one day.
Oh, that's great.
But all depends upon what his age is.
Okay. This was quite early, is it, sir?
This was quite early.
Okay.
This was early. And also it depends upon the talent he has.
Okay.
If he's got a talent, yes, we would encourage him. In fact, I'm quite proud to say that this year we had one student from our school who went to the CBSE National Athletic Meet and won the gold medal.
Oh my God.
So we are thrilled about
That's
it.
great. That's great. So a lot of data research shows that it's incredibly tough to carve a niche in career, and in sports it's much easier to do that in the academic world, so I think yes, we need to make sure that we have the right talent at the right age if we need to make a choice between hitting the field or going back to the desk. Thank you for that, sir. So let me steal a question asked by a previous caller. It's about probably in the 10th or in the 11th grade, a lot of parents send their kids back to India because they feel it's better to send them to India so that they'll be more focused towards their competitive entrance examinations. But that's almost like uprooting a child from his environment here and putting him at a very vulnerable age, putting him in a totally alien environment. What would you advise?
I think you need to look at the child. Most important is the child.
Okay.
If he has got the attitude for going back to India, then I would suggest we should do that. We also need to prepare the child before he goes.
Okay.
Others, invariably what I found is the boy goes to India and 3 months later he creates a scene there.
Exactly.
And comes back to the school.
We see that quite often.
And the parent comes and says, sir, you need to take him back.
Okay.
You know, he can't adjust to the surroundings in India.
Okay.
At the same time, let me also mention that we've had children who studied here in UAE, who have done their +2 well, and then gone back to India. And what they do is they take a year off for entrance coaching.
Okay.
I think this is a better way of doing it, because you definitely require a longer period for the entrance coaching. The reason being, there are a lot of institutions in India which is only doing this entrance coaching, and children are taking a year off to be there.
Okay.
So if there is a student who is in grade 12 and he's going to compete for a seat in the engineering or medical college, he's actually competing with another student who's been preparing for 1 long year.
Exactly.
So it's not easy. So my advice to parents is, look, if he's got the attitude and you've created the right atmosphere, you've given him the necessary guidance, then send him to India.
Okay.
But here I would say it will be also nice for the mother to shift back to India, because at this crucial time of his life, I think he needs a lot of emotional support.
Definitely.
So if you're really wanting your child to go to India and take on the entrance examination, I think what we need to do is the mother relocates to India, gives that emotional support, and then I'm sure he will do wonders.
There's a lot of food for thought. Well, he can do it here. I think the better option would be to complete 12th and then go back there for a year, and probably let the mother relocate as well. That's a win-win solution for all you young guys who wouldn't want to go right now. You want to stay back at home and pursue your education. Thank you, sir. Now that's a slightly cheeky one. When you said a lot of people come back, you inadvertently said a lot of boys come back after making a scene. Do girls come back?
I'm sorry. I've been in a boys' school for so many years. So please forgive me, those students who belong to the other sex who are watching this show.
Okay.
When I say boys, it's only because I had a boys' school. And so, that word comes. But I have equal, love for boys and girls.
Okay.
And I'm sure it must be applicable to the girls also. But when it comes to girls, I think the parents also, one of the mother generally goes back to give her that support to see that the person is secure in India, and then comes back.
Sure.
So I can only say about boys because I've been dealing with them.
Exactly.
And when it comes to girls, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question just now.
Okay.
But it could be a similar
Probably
situation.
So, yeah. Logically, I think that must be a similar situation. So now this is a question a lot of parents have. We find our kids literally married to gadgets all day long. 5 minutes you ask them to go and play and they get very bored. That's what they say if they don't have a gadget or screen time. So it's from the PC to the laptop to the phone. That's how it works right now. And then we get information that you have the bring your own device, the BYOD system in CBSE schools, and we wonder, oh my God, it's going to be in school as well. So what could be the pros and cons of this?
Let's face facts.
Okay.
Today we are living in an electronic world,
Okay.
in a digital world. And if you're not educated digitally, I would say the person is illiterate.
Okay.
I've never in my school told my students that they should stay away from gadgets.
Really? Okay.
But what is important is the time they give for their gadgets,
Okay.
the amount of time they spend on it.
Okay.
That's more important.
Okay.
And it is the responsibility of the school, the teachers, the parents to ensure that there is some control placed on the time that they spend on a device. Let's also take into consideration the fact that children love gadgets. They love to be on the gadgets, and it's very interesting. So why can't we tap this and create an environment where learning becomes very fun-loving and very interesting? So that's what we are trying to do by having this BYOD, bring your own device, because children love to use gadgets, and when we use it, when we channelize the energy into learning, learning happens faster.
Definitely.
The second advantage of BYOD is teachers are able to get instant feedback. When you give an assignment, the teacher is able to get instant feedback.
Definitely.
How many children understood the concept? How many didn't?
Okay.
So we are able to take quick action, remedial action.
True.
So I think we need to harness the technology into education. That's where the world is going. If we don't do it, we'll be left behind.
Definitely, sir. And I think that's what we parents need to support as well. Most of the times you find cars with screens on the back seats, and that's the only time your kids can look out of the windows
Yes.
and talk with you. So get them to switch that off. Or when you're in a restaurant, don't allow them to just a few minutes that you get as social family time. Don't allow them to be glued on to the gadgets. But in school, as sir said, let's make use of technology and let's leverage its advantages to provide better education to our children. So a very tough question here. Now, there are a lot of parents out there and students out there, starry-eyed, who want to be successful.
Okay.
And we've always told them what they should do to be successful. So you find umpteen books written about 10 things to do to be successful, 7 habits and 10 habits, and I've been doing a lot of that as well. Let me ask a parent and an administrator this question. 4 or 5 things a student must not do to become successful.
I think the first thing is procrastination.
Okay.
You know, it's a tendency for us to move things to a later time. I think that's something which we must avoid. I do agree we live in a world where there's so many distractions, so many things to do. I pity the present generation because when we were young, we never had a TV.
Okay.
And then came the black and white TV.
Yes, sir, the Asian
and
days.
there was just one channel.
Okay.
Today we have thousands of channels.
True.
And a variety of programs. So also we never had the internet.
Exactly.
So today's child is actually faced with plenty of choices. But however, we need to make the child understand that he must not keep things away for the next day.
Okay.
He must do what he has to do today, and then I'm sure he'll be successful. That's one of the things. Second and very important thing is not to have negative energy in him.
Okay.
If you stay with a friend who's always negative towards life, towards studies, then you're going to, take in some of those ideas from him. Similarly, the media, you go to some of the magazines, all these can give you negative energy. I think what is important is to ensure that there is less negative energy in a child.
Okay.
Thirdly, I think to be successful, the child should sleep enough time. I think today, as we have so many gadgets available, children sleep less and spend more time on gadgets. I think getting about 6 to 7 hours of sleep is very essential. I personally found that when I'm sick, if I sleep, I'm able to recharge faster and come out of that sickness.
Definitely.
So children also need to sleep enough if they need to achieve success. And lastly, I think it's very important that they need to keep these gadgets away when they go to sleep.
Exactly.
Or when they are studying.
Exactly.
Because if you're keeping your gadgets nearby, there's a lot of distraction.
True.
And when there's distraction, you're not able to concentrate, you're not able to do your studies well. Lastly, I think there is also a trust deficit now in children, where they tend to not trust their parents fully.
Okay.
I, for one, feel that we must, trust our parents totally.
Okay.
Success will come where there's a family, where there is a high amount of trust.
I fully agree with you, sir. So I was reading a study on that which says when we were young, let's say when I was young, my father could drive a car. He was the only one who could switch the TV on. But right now, when I have a problem with a gadget, I give it to my son. Yeah. He's much faster in learning and he teaches me what to do. And the study says that is really attributed to this trust deficit as well. They look at us as if we are not as competent as they would want us to be. But as sir said, all you young guys, it's not just a question of gadgets and apps. The amazing number of years of experience that they have going through diverse conditions. So you need to trust them. If they are not able to convince you, I think you can ask questions. You can probe further, but you need to make sure that they have your best interests in mind. And sometimes faith is all about believing first and then seeing the evidence of what you believed in.
Exactly.
For the sake of the viewers, let me just reiterate what Sir said. First is about procrastination. What has to be done today has to be done today. Don't leave it. And the administrator that Sir is, I'm 100% sure that you mean exactly what you say. Sir talked about sleep. Definitely make sure that you don't compromise sleeping time for whatever other entertainment or distraction that you have, and keep gadgets away. So something very interesting is about, there was a study done in which couples were asked to sit next to each other, and a smartphone was just kept near them. Okay, just kept. It was inactive, they were not using it, and they were asked to talk. And in another study, just the couples were asked to talk. There were no gadgets. And after these studies, they were asked questions about each other. What did this guy say and what did this guy say? And they found that the couples who had the gadget nearby were not listening. Just by having a gadget, the mind was, what's going to happen, what's on WhatsApp, what's on Facebook. And I think the points that talked about negativity at your age, I think shed that negativity. So even stop saying whatever and whoever. Be positive and take it forward. So our show, this is what happens in the show. For 6 days in a week, we focus on academics, and 1 day we focus on life skills. So this is the life skill program. What are schools, I'm not talking about your school in particular, what are schools nowadays doing to groom these youngsters into good citizens, into good leaders?
I think every school must be doing this.
Okay.
The most important skill for a child tomorrow is communication.
Really? Okay.
Communication is most essential, and I can assure you that 5 year or 10 year down the lane, that will be one skill which will be required.
Okay.
So I'm sure most schools will be doing this. Second, if you ask me, is to become proactive thinkers. I think thinking is something which we are slowly, it's on the decline.
True.
So you need to be a proactive thinker and a problem solver.
Okay.
Now, when you start thinking, half the problem is solved. Similarly, I think another very important skill which is required today is collaboration, teamwork, which I think most companies want in youngsters who join them. So these are some of the important skills I think children would be trained in a school. And along with this, I'm taking what you mentioned just now, Sangeet, that's listening skill.
True.
Today, everybody wants to talk. They don't want to listen.
Exactly.
And even if they listen, they don't imbibe what they listen.
True.
I think listening is another very important skill.
That must be taught.
That must be taught.
They say that you don't really listen, though you act as if you're listening. You're framing your reply. So when somebody is talking, you're standing there and you're framing your reply and not really listening. So I want to share something personal, sir. A lot of people say that kids brought up in the Gulf, in fact, a lot of debates happen. They're not as smart. They use the word smart. Maybe that's what they say. Probably in terms of street smartness, compared to their peers back in India. So, what is your take on that, sir?
I think the problem here is we live in a very protective environment.
Okay.
The school bus comes just outside your house.
Okay.
I remember when I was a kid, I was in Delhi, I had to run behind the DTC buses to enter the bus, to board the bus. Now here the bus comes there, and if the bus goes a little bit ahead and the bus stop is about 20 yards ahead, there's a complaint.
Exactly.
Why is the bus there? Why can't the bus stop?
True.
Then what happens to the supply of milk? It is the supermarket uncle who brings it right to your doorstep.
Yes.
In India, you need to stand in a queue.
Exactly.
So what happens is, when a child is young, the child gets to know that it is a very different society.
True.
It's a survival of the fittest.
Exactly.
But here, everything is protected.
True.
But to say that the child is not smart, I don't agree.
Okay.
Our children are smart.
Okay.
I think what is required is to put them into a right environment and they blossom and bloom.
Okay.
I've had some wonderful kids who are doing very well in life.
Okay.
They've gone to US, they've gone to UK, and they're doing very well. I met some of my children whom I taught in various schools. occupying key positions in companies. So I think they are smart. They will pick up when the need rises. But I think as parents, what we need to do is don't make things easy for them. Make them tough. Give them opportunities, give them situations where they can, show that they have to toil. Then only they can get the reward.
True. I can give you a good example, sir. Once I was doing a training for students in India when I'd gone for my vacation. So I had asked a child to play act a scene where in the midst of an activity, this child would suddenly fall down. Okay? I had asked him to do that because I just wanted to see the reaction of the others. Now this child just fell down as if he has had a stroke or God forbid or whatever. When this was done in India, majority of the students tried to raise an alarm and picked the child up and they brought water. But when I repeated the same experiment back here in a camp, what happened is most of the kids just ran away, shouting because they were not screaming. They didn't even have the confidence to approach the problem and do it. So I think let's go by, so all of you who get bullied when you go back home for your vacation saying that you're not smart and you're from the Gulf, I think you have evidence now that students in the Gulf do equally well as their peers back home. But let us as parents make sure that we don't make life a bed of roses for them right now. In a very controlled manner, of course, not exposing them to risk, but in a very controlled manner, let's make them tough by giving them challenges that they need to face. Probably, sir, I'll have time maybe for just one more question because the world outside has changed a lot. Challenges are different. I was reading the new millionaires list, which is published by Forbes every year, and every year that list is getting younger. So when I was young, we had the Birlas and the Tatas, 50s and 60s. Now these guys who are becoming millionaires are probably in their 20s. So the world has changed. How has education changed? And how would you like it to change?
When you look at education, I think what is very important for me is there has to be a change in the teacher training.
Okay.
Traditionally, Indian teacher training is university based.
Okay.
I think it needs to shift to a school-based system where you have B.Ed colleges totally, attached to schools.
Okay.
I mean, there's a more of practical, aspects looked into rather than theory.
Okay.
If you look at a good doctor, he spends a lot of time with his patients even before he qualifies as a doctor.
Definitely.
I think a teacher needs to do that.
Okay.
Secondly, I think we need to connect with our children.
Okay.
We need to also help them to imbibe another very important quality, that is risk-taking.
You mean to say students should take more risks?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
They must be, because this is something which we should encourage.
True.
And that's when you get a good entrepreneur.
Exactly.
And I think risk-taking is something which we need to help our students to develop.
Okay.
And I'm sure then they will do well.
True. I was just reading something on Facebook today that says we shouldn't be teaching our children to do the same things that we did because they're not relevant anymore. Exactly. We want them to do totally different things. Which so another report says that more than 40% of jobs today would not be there in the next 10, 15 years.
Yes.
It's going to be totally different. So let's make sure that we adapt our kids to do that. If you watch TED, my little friends, along with your parents, if you watch the TED Talks, TED Education, you've got Bill Gates speaking on the topic, teachers need feedback. So it's all about giving feedback. This is exactly what Sir said. Instead of training teachers in an academic setup, make sure that they are on the floor teaching, where you have coaches and mentors and experienced people giving them training. I think I'll have just the time probably for one last question, if people in the studio would agree. One last question. Sir, teaching is a noble profession. My dad was a teacher, and even after my engineering and my MBA, he used to tell me that you will always hear the sea calling for you, Sangeet. You will always want to go back to teaching. So one last question. How can we encourage our children to take up jobs as teachers?
I think we as teachers need to walk the talk.
Okay.
And we need to show our passion in our profession. Now when children see that we have passion for what we are doing, I think automatically they join this profession.
Great.
And lastly, I think the government, the various organizations should make teaching a paid career.
Exactly.
Because in some countries, the best people go for the teaching profession. The best people. But in India, unfortunately, it's not happening. And I think I would request the policy makers to ensure that teachers are looked after well.
Great. That's an amazing answer. I'm so happy that you said it, because it's a profession that creates all professions. Let's give it the respect that it deserves. Sir, on behalf of all those people watching, and the Chanchal and Mujib and the rest of the team in the studio, Mr. Mathukutti and myself, it's an honor to have you with us. And once again, we really look forward to having you again in the studio, and again and again and again. Thanks a lot for being with us. Please be with us for the rest of the days, and next Saturday in particular. I'll be joined on the hot seat by Mr. Nair, who is the principal of the Sharjah Indian School. And he's also the stakeholder of CBSE in the Gulf, I understand. Yes, sir. So we'll have a lot of interesting questions for him. And I'll be handling the topic of belief. How can we get our children to believe in themselves, the next success story? So the journey continues. Thanks a lot for being with us. Looking forward to getting more calls and dissents and arguments and debates with us on this show. It's time for me to sign off. Sangeet Ibrahim, your life coach who joins you every Saturday. Thanks a lot for being with us.